Verbal abuse. This form appears through harmful words, tone, and constant criticism. It often includes insults, name, calling, shouting, or making someone feel small in everyday conversations. Over time, it slowly damages self-esteem because the person begins to believe those negative words as truth. It is one of the most visible forms, yet it is often normalized in families and relationships. Gaslighting. This happens when someone makes another person question their own memory, perception, or sanity. The abuser may deny things they clearly said or did, or twist reality in subtle ways. It creates deep confusion, making the victim feel unstable and dependent on the abuser for what is real. The term became widely known from older psychological discussions and media portrayals. Manipulation. This involves controlling someone's thoughts or actions without them realizing it. The abuser may use guilt, fear, or emotional pressure to get what they want. Unlike direct abuse, it feels indirect and calculated, often making the victim feel responsible for decisions that were never truly theirs. Isolation. This form cuts a person off from friends, family, or support systems. It may start with small comments about others being bad influence or not trustworthy. Gradually, the victim becomes more dependent on the abuser, which increases control and reduces the chance of outside help or perspective. Silent treatment. Here, communication is intentionally withdrawn as a way to punish or control. The abuser ignores the other person, refuses to respond, or acts as if they do not exist. This creates anxiety and emotional distress because humans naturally seek connection and resolution in relationships. Humiliation. This occurs when someone is made to feel ashamed or embarrassed, often in front of others. It can include mocking, sarcasm, or exposing personal details to hurt dignity. The damage is not only emotional but also social, as it can affect how the person sees themselves in public and private. Control. This type focuses on dominating a person's choices, actions, and independence. It may involve controlling finances, decisions, schedules, or even personal beliefs. Over time, the victim may lose confidence in making their own choices and begin to rely entirely on the abuser. Blame shifting. This happens when the abuser avoids responsibility by placing fault on the victim. Even when something is clearly not their fault, the victim is made to feel guilty. It creates a cycle where the victim constantly tries to fix things while the real issue is never addressed. Threatening. This includes using fear as a tool, whether through direct threats or implied consequences. The abuser may threaten to leave, harm themselves, or create problems if they do not get their way. It builds a constant sense of tension and insecurity. Intimidation. This form relies on fear created through actions, tone, or presence rather than words alone. It can include aggressive body language, breaking objects, or sudden anger. Even without physical harm, it makes the victim feel unsafe and constantly on edge. Emotional neglect. This occurs when emotional needs are consistently ignored or dismissed. The abuser may seem distant, uninterested, or unwilling to provide support. Over time, the victim feels invisible and unimportant, which can be deeply damaging despite the absence of direct conflict. Guilt tripping. This involves making someone feel guilty to control their behavior. The abuser may act hurt, disappointed, or sacrifice to pressure the other person into compliance. It often feels subtle, but it creates emotional burden and obligation. Love bombing. This is an intense display of affection, attention, or praise, usually at the beginning of a relationship or after conflict. It creates emotional dependency and makes the victim overlook harmful behavior. When the affection suddenly fades, it leaves confusion and a desire to regain that earlier feeling. Degradation. This form involves consistently lowering someone's sense of worth through insults, comparison, or dismissive behavior. It is often repetitive and targeted, slowly shaping how the victim sees. Monitoring. This includes constantly checking on someone's activities, messages, or whereabouts. It may appear as care at first, but it gradually becomes invasive and controlling. Privacy is reduced and the person feels watched at all times. Withholding. This happens when affection, approval, or communication is deliberately held back. The abuser uses this as a way to control or punish. It creates emotional distance and makes the victim work harder for basic connection. Projection. This occurs when the abuser accuses the victim of behaviors or feelings they themselves have. It shifts attention away from their own actions and creates confusion. The victim may start questioning their own character instead of recognizing the manipulation. Invalidation. This involves dismissing or minimizing someone's feelings. The abuser may say things like you're overreacting or it's not a big deal. Over time, the victim begins to doubt their own emotions and feels misunderstood. Triangulation. This happens when a third person is brought into the situation to create jealousy, comparison, or conflict. It may involve praising someone else or sharing private information to create tension. This keeps the victim insecure and seeking approval. Dependency creation. This form builds a situation where the victim feels unable to function without the abuser. It can involve financial control, emotional reliance, or limiting opportunities. The result is a loss of independence and a stronger hold of control.